Welcome to the Fat Man channel. Tonight we're going to be playing Valiant Hearts, The Great War. So far it's been an excellent experience. I'm really enjoying this game. The framework that they're using is UbiArt framework, and I have to say that many of the games that I have played in it are just excellent games. There's things like Rayman Legends, Rayman Origins. They also have games like Child of Light, which I've also played. It's fantastically done. The artwork in it just really seems to pop, and I enjoy it a lot. So let's jump in. I'm a little ways into the game, not too much. I'm about 2 hours or 3 hours in. I have other videos of the first part that I have played up on the Twitch there, or the YouTube channel. There's links to it. So let's jump in and see how it goes.
Anna was training to be a veterinarian when the war broke out. The Germans were only 20 miles from Paris when she received a letter from her father. He was in good health, but implored her not to return home to Belgium until the war's end. Patience, however, was not one of Anna's strong suits.
The Germans at the gate. In September 1914, the German advance took them to within 20 miles of Paris. The government had already fled to Bordeaux and was expecting Paris to fall. In the north, most of Belgium was occupied, but under the king's command, 75,000 soldiers kept Ypres and Uri out of Germans' hands. Taxi to Marine, September 6th and September 7th, 1914, General Gallieni requisitioned 630 Parisian taxis to transport troops rapidly to Marne. While relatively few soldiers were actually transported, 4,000 in all, 3% of the total number of men deployed in battle. The impact on public was huge. The event became a symbol of solidarity for the nation, and the Marine counterattack saved Paris from German occupation. Inkwell ballpoint pens were not developed until 1950 and 1960, so soldiers used a quill or a nib to write letters. Ink was poured into an inkwell, into which, in order to provide enough ink, the quill or nib had to be dipped regularly. broken watch strap. A watch strap broken by a motor crank handle. Before battery ignition was developed, motor cars were started by cranking a handle. As engines sparked to life, the operator had to let go of the handle smartly because the crank handle, when now propelled by the engine, it could cause a nasty accident. A lot of them could break their arms on these things. When you did the hand cranks, if the gas was touched, it would even speed up the revolutions of it. So you had to, you had to be very careful of it. Crank it, pull it to get it off. So some of them didn't even have the ones that that were removable. They were just, that was it. It was there, So here we go.
Courage, Nebo. Pas mieux. Chut. Voilà, viens. Voilà.
Merci, madame.
The Petite Journal, or the Little Journal. The main source of information was the newspaper. Radios were in their early days, based on tube technology, and television didn't even exist. On top of local national news, a news section appeared in the newspaper dedicated to the events on the front. Some newspapers also published daily listings of POWs and war dead. Yeah, I know. That's my thing, yeah. Need a bloody container. Water's coming out. Letter from a Bulgarian civilian in Paris. Dear parents, we fled our land before the German advance to take shelter in France with the children. Unfortunately, the Germans kept coming forward and Paris is practically under siege. If Paris falls, we shall return home to Liege. Your dear daughter, Mathilda. Thanks for the bottles. Motherfuckers! Yeehaw!
September 7th, 1914. Taxis drove all night. Anna was proud to help the soldiers reach the front line. When Anna arrived at her destination, she discovered the horrible truth with her own eyes.
September 7th, 1914, Marine train. The Hecatoon? The first 3 months of the war saw especially heavy losses. August 22nd, 1914 was the bloodiest day of the whole war. With heavy casualties, the numbers of wounded were far greater than had been anticipated, and the military health services struggled to cope with the scale of the conflict. In our history, World War I is the bloodiest war we have ever fought, we've ever had. More men and women and children and old people died in that war than World War II or any other war you can think of. The sheer scale of it was just unthinkable. Nobody could have known how bad it would have been. This was a stalemate with new technology and weapons where, instead of just 1 or 2 rounds going down, there's hundreds of rounds going down with just one weapon. You have a tug of war for hundreds of feet at a time. World War I has way more blood and tragedies than, say, World War II. Nurses. Nurses were the angels of the Great War, and were generally volunteers recruited by the Red Cross, the Army, or the American ambulances to work long, grueling shifts in hospitals, both at the front and behind the lines. They played the role of carers, mothers, confidants. They often featured in soldiers' memoirs, and were sometimes their sole companion in death. The majority of demobilized at the end of the hostilities. A generation has no idea, no concept of what these men and women and their families went through. They say that World War II was the greatest generation that lived. I'm sure it was. A lot of the men that were in World War I were older by the time. Hitler himself was a messenger boy in World War I. It's mind-boggling that we're so disconnected from our own history.
Vas-y. Non, 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 non. Non, 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 non. Ok. Allez, ça va mieux. Voilà, c'est bon. Allez, courage. Courage, Nico. Voilà. Allez.
J'y va, ma bière.
7 months went by. Driven by compassion, Anna devoted herself, body and soul, to healing the wounded and the sick. Every life saved was another small victory over the war. The conflict, however, raged on.
Utes, Belgium.
Contalo.
September 7th, 1914. The situation is horrific here. Yesterday, I was in my warm, cozy apartment, and now in the middle of depths of hell. There are so many dead, so many young lives lost. I managed to save one soldier this morning, but there are so many others to tend to. Tomorrow, I will try to get close to the front so I can help those most in need. Mess tin with holes. Both dishes of mess tin have holes in them. Not hugely practical for eating, but perhaps eating perhaps, but life-saving for one soldier. The mess tin bag was worn at kidney height when the shell exploded. This mess tin slowed down the searing hot shrapnel in flight, which, although it wounded the soldier, helped him live another day. Mess tins were blackened using smoke to prevent them from glinting any sunlight.
Hey, violon, ven a atacar a Trimor. Regarde, on a connu. Maintenant, la criarde. Beaucoup la connu.
Courage, Nibo. Voilà, c'est mieux. Voilà. Allez, courage.
Si bas, ma vieille.
Towel sock. Socks soaked in refined towel and coated with formula, the most effective way to beat the cold and damp, frostbite, and other ailments. That, at least, was what the advertised had people believed. However effective the socks were, the soldier's best friend was always a nice, dry pair. Nurse's Manual. The war effort suddenly required a larger medical corps, and there were not enough qualified personnel, so manuals were published and distributed to help volunteers train. The manuals provided a whole host of practical solutions to logistical and medical problems at the front, such as how to make a splint or a stretcher using rifles and their straps. Yeah, I'm working on it, bud. Letter from Parisian soldier. 6th of September, 1914. My dear daughter, we're making headway through the French countryside. The landscape is beautiful, and I'd much rather be enjoying it with you than killing people. I think of you all the time, your father, Wolfgang. Good night, kiddo. Ti amo.
Oh, Pufiro.
Vážně bo. Voilà. Voilà. Allez. Allez, coche.
Shit. Almost lost that guy.
Hey, more down.
The French officers were talking about Belgium. The German army was about to experiment with a new weapon near Ypres, Anna's hometown. Anna got en route to warn her father about the imminent danger. Reaching the outskirts of the city, Anna was greeted by the screams of siren. The deadly gas was already here.
A wooden top. Wooden top with string, a common toy of the age. During the war, toys gradually became more war-based. Through board games, children could fight out famous battles, while other items ridiculed the enemy. After the war, toys and games became more pacifist once more.
Oh, petite maman.
Oh, bloody hell.
Merci beaucoup.
Broken walking stick. The knob is all that remains of this walking stick. The stick has been carefully sculpted, a souvenir of the trenches. Unfortunately, a broken walking stick is no use to anyone.
Oh la malheureuse, non, on y va pas.
A town in ruins, dubbed Whisper. The British troops, due to difficult pronunciation, the Belgian town known as Vite, was a key strategic position during the war, a hub for road, rail, canal networks. It became the target for sustained bombardment from 1914. In 1915, the Germans even used chemical warfare on the town. By the end of the war, the majestic cathedral and town center were nothing but ruins. Technology at work. In the wake of technology advances of the early 20th century, the vast scope of the industrialized war brought developments in all fields: aircraft, submarines, dirigibles, and tanks. Great progress was made in the fields of medicine, surgery, medical hygiene, and radiology, thanks to Marie Curie's work, who took thousands of x-rays of the wounded. During war, technology speeds up. It goes light speed. The fastest time that technology is in learning or moving forward is during the state of war. We are using many things from World War II, many advances, many things that we discovered as a species. We discovered back in World War II. Things like microwaves, disposable razors. They had safety razors, but not ones that you would shave and chuck or you'd bin, right? So think Gillette razors, right? Ones that you can buy, you shave your face once or twice, and then you bin them. Look at the aircraft. Look how far the aircraft came in the first half of the 20th century. Airplanes were only 10, 15 years before this that they flew for the very first time. The Wright brothers were, only years away. It's pretty amazing how fast, how advanced we were in the 20th century. We knew more in the first half of the 20th. We learned more in the first half of the 20th century than we did in the last half. Bedpan latrines were generally housed outside in the yard in homes of all social classes. So during the night, bedpans were used. In well-to-do households, servants were charged with emptying the bedpans. Remember, they didn't have indoor plumbing back then. So if you want to take a crap or a piss, whatnot, you either did it in one of these and then carried it out later on at a different time, or you went out to your outhouse. Gotta be thankful for the little things in life, yes? I have to say thank you for joining me. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Please subscribe. Please click on that button where you can follow me. I like to broadcast every night. I start between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. Tonight I was a little bit later, but that's when I normally start. If you can follow me, that'd be great. I'll be on. I play many different games. I usually try to beat all the games that I do play. Oh, son of a bitch. 26. Oh, wait. Come on, sweetheart. Hold on to it. No. So 2, 6, 3, 8. Okay, there's the 3, there's the 8. The other painting had, I believe, 2. Oh shit, there's 1, 4. Okay, so 2, 6, 1, 4, 3, 8. So let's go 2, 6, 1, 2. How about just Roman numerals? So, first one was 2. Then 1. Then 3. Then 2. 6. 1. Yeah, 2, 6, 1. Oh, maybe we add them. 8, 5. No, we can't fucking add them. 2, 1, 3. Two. 2, 6, 1, 4, 3, 8, motherfucker. How about 6, 4, 8? Oh, I got it. The room of no morals. First 1, then 6, then 8. First 4, then 6. Then the 8. Dumbass. Sorry. It is 1 a.m., 10 to 1 a.m., so I'm a little bit off my game. Chemical formula. This formula is a description of what happens to soldiers' lungs when they inhale chlorine gas. Chlorine gas reacts with the water inside of your lungs to produce hydrochloric acid, creating horrendous burns. So you take chlorine, you take a little bit of water, and then that means you're fucked. The only way to really neutralize chlorine gas attacks was with ammonia. So there was one great Canadian soldier. He was an officer. He was leading his regiment, whatnot, and a chlorine attack was happening. He had his soldiers. He ordered his soldiers to urinate inside of their handkerchiefs or their rags. Piss onto some cloth, urinate, take that cloth, put it over your mouth, and breathe through your urine-soaked rag. The ammonia inside of the cloth or inside of your urine would neutralize the chlorine gas. It was the only thing to help overcome you getting deadly burns. And I tell you, that day, the Germans that were attacking those men were shocked to find that the entire regiment was still intact. Because they were expecting, maybe 10%, 3% resistance. They were slaughtered because everybody was ready to go to receive the German attack. Stereoscopic camera. A camera that captures 2 simultaneously images on glass plates, enabling relief images. Use of this camera was relatively widespread because the device was small and ready to transport. Now, a lot of people think that this, 3D stuff is new. It's not. It's very, very old. They use these. They would take these up into the dirigibles, up into the blimps, whatnot, and they would look down and able to take pictures. And then this helped produce a 3D picture because they would be able to see where the shadows were on the buildings, whatnot. So they could get a lot of information from using the shadows in the buildings. It was really, really, really smart. It helped them produce better quality maps as well.
governess revealed to her that her father, an eminent scientist, had been kidnapped by Baron von Dorf, who was eager to use scientific advances in warfare. Anna set out in pursuit of the Baron and encountered Emilia and Freddy. Destiny brought them together. They had survived the enemy's wrath, their gunfire, bombardments, gas attacks. Now, with her father within reach, Anna wasn't going to let him slip away.
Stop maintenant! Vous avez fini, bravo!
Virgin Mary statuette and a case. A case containing a statuette of the Virgin Mary, another example of trench art. To overcome their boredom, soldiers would set to working transforming anything that came to hand. Unexploded ammunition, empty cartridges, and shell debris were all turned into day-to-day items and put to more pacifist use.
Allez, courage. Va mieux. Voilà. Courage, Nibo. Voilà, c'est bien. Allez, courage.
Danke.
Albert!
Ik weigerte. Hey! Arthur! Bleu!